Steve Scanlon, who is a former financial advisor and now a consumer watchdog of the financial industry and co-founder of GuardVest. And here today to talk about scary investments that people make with their 401k. No doubt about that. Most people don't even know what they are investing in their 401k plan.
That's very true. Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here once again. It is pretty scary out there. Most people don't pay enough attention to this stuff until it's too late, unfortunately.
Well, first of all, most 401k programs come through the employer. And as a result, employees say, well, you know, they know more about it than I do. Don't bet the farm on that.
Well, it's very true. Fortunately, in 2006, there was a law passed called the Pension Protection Act, which basically allowed employers to default you into what's called a target date fund, where basically they just take your birth date and they match you up with an appropriate allocation. However, they don't have to. In many cases, still, they can just, if you don't ever make a choice, they can just put you in cash, and you're earning zero, and you don't look up until it's too late. I've seen that happen my whole career, where somebody thought, looked at a 401k like a pension, like our grandparents had, and it's absolutely not the same thing. You have to take control of it and make sure that you're paying attention to it and that you're invested appropriately, because it's your retirement we're talking about.
Well, you bring up a great point. Pensions are truly a thing of the past. The millenniums will say, pension, what the hell is a pension?
Right.
I'm not offered a pension. No, you're not. And I'll guarantee you that's a benefit that's long gone. Ain't no more. Ever since the recession, even though the government told us the recession's been over for 6 years, ask people on the street if the recession's over, and they say, yeah, it's just starting to get over. But benefits like a pension, long gone.
Long gone. I mean, it costs the firms way too much to do that because life expectancies are so much higher. So, when pensions were initiated, decades ago, you'd pay somebody in retirement, but people were passing away at, 68 years old. Now, a couple that reaches age 65, there's a 93% chance that one of them's going to be, a 50% chance that one of them's going to be live to 97. So companies can't afford to pay you, for 30 years. They could afford to pay you for 3, but not for 30. And so that's why the 401ks have not taken over, and it puts the onus back on the client or the investor.
So what's the answer? Well, how can I protect myself to make sure that my 401k truly is not scary, but working for me?
Well, so here's the thing. Unfortunately, again, most people don't even ever log into their account. At GuardVest, I talk to people all day long that I ask them, okay, what's your username and password to your 401k so you can log in? And they're like, oh, gosh, I've never really looked at it. And so the first thing you have to do is just...
Excuse me, Steve, but that's pretty scary in and of itself, isn't it?
It's terrifying. It's why we founded the company, because people just say, well, I don't ever look at it. To your point earlier, Gary, I mean, they just say, well, I assume somebody's taking care of that. So the first thing you have to do is you've got to log into your account and find out how you're invested and see, if you are appropriately invested. It's really simple because, again, most 401k plans now offer these target date funds where it's really as simple as you putting in your birth date. And asset managers and big, well-known money managers that manage 401k plans will set you up in an appropriate target date based on your age. And pretty much that's as good as just about any other thing that you can do on your own. I mean, most people do it yourself. The do-it-yourselfers, if you will, end up not doing a very good job. So the target date is an easy way for you to do it without having to pay much attention to it, and then you can actually set it and forget it. But you got to look at it from time to time and make sure that you're appropriately invested. If you don't pay attention to it, I hate to say it this way, but it's kind of your fault.
Who should you take it to if you can't make heads or tails out of it, or don't know whether or not you're getting the best deal? Who do you trust with this information?
Well, so financial advisors can now talk to you about your 401k if they don't manage it. So if you've got a trusted advisor, they can direct you. There's plenty of things you can read. Candidly, our site, guardvest.com, will allow you to look at it in 60 seconds, see what your fees are, what your performance is, and what your risk is. And it takes literally about a minute to just get updated. And then, we'll give you questions to ask and things of that nature. And then in addition, all 401k plans will have some sort of help desk where you can call in and you can say, I've got a question about this or I want to talk about this, and they'll be able to help you. So it takes a minimal amount of effort, but boy, a minimal amount of effort to make a really big difference on the money that's working for you.
If you find that the plan is not optimal for you, what are your options? What can you do?
It's a great question. Many 401k plans allow you to do what's called a self-directed brokerage account, which means that you could go to Charles Schwab or Vanguard or a low-cost provider like that if that's what you're interested in, and you can actually still be part of the 401k, but they're not actually managing your money. So it's important to know that you can look at a self-directed IRA, a self-directed brokerage account within your 401k plan.
Is there any length of time you have to be a member before you have that privilege of being self-directed?
Not really. I mean, you got to be an employee for probably 90 days in most cases, but if it's offered, you can start using it immediately if you look at the expenses. And one of the other things that I'll tell you that's worthwhile to note is a lot of people, when they retire, automatically think that they have to leave the 401k plan. And I got to tell you, in many cases, it's not necessarily a great move, because if you work for a company, and let's say you got 100 employees, and let's say there's $10 million in that 401k, the fees are going to be charged as if you're a $10 million account. So if you take your $200,000 out and you go roll it into a financial advisor, they're going to charge you a lot more money because you only got $200,000. So in many cases, you can keep your 401k for the rest of your life, and you can benefit from those fees that are aggregated because of the size of the plan.
Great advice, yeah. A lot of people, you're right. I think a lot of people mistakenly think, well, I'm retired, I got to take it out now.
That's exactly right. And you got all these people calling you going, oh, I'll take care of you, and I'll move it over here, and we'll diversify and dynamically asset allocate, and we'll do all this stuff, and we'll compare it for you at GuardVest. You can say, okay, well, your plan right now is costing you 0.75%. If you move to the advisor that's pitching you for your business, it's going to cost you 3%.
That is called look before you leap.
Yeah, and it's like test driving a car. We tell people all the time, make the advisor give you recommendations and follow them for a long time for free until you feel comfortable allocating your capital. It's the silliest business in the world, this business where you just got to basically, somebody sells you something and you just give them your money, and the only way you find out if they're any good is by giving them your money. And you also find out if they're bad.
Speaking of selling me something, what are you selling me when I call in to or go online to GuardVest?
We don't sell you anything, and that's the brilliance behind the company, is that we've talked about this before, but you can't get a real second opinion in this business, because if you go to another advisor and say, hey, Gary, look at my statement here that I have at XYZ Brokerage. Do you think they're doing a good job for me? There's no way you're going to tell me that they're doing a good job, because you want me to put my money with you. GuardVest is completely unbiased. We can't manage your money. We don't want to manage your money. We simply want to give you an unbiased second opinion, free look at your portfolio to see what you're getting. And so we don't call you. There's no salesperson that's going to call you. We give you a free look at it so that you can get the information you need to make the best decision for you.
So then people say, all right, I get that, but how are you guys making any money?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so what we built is the ability for advisors who are good to go out and give you that free look. So if I want your business, I say, Gary, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to build you a free look portfolio, and you watch it versus what you're currently doing. And over time, if I do a better job than your current advisor, then I'd like you to move your assets over with me. But I'll prove it to you. And that's what we do. We make them prove it to you. And good advisors will pay a lot of money to have communications with those clients to showcase their skills. So the advisors pay us, and the money managers will pay us to advertise so that you can have options.
You're only as good as those people that sign up. I mean, do you have the best, or do you have those people that? How do I know that you're representing the best?
We're not representing anybody. You're representing them. So you find somebody that you think that you want to interview to manage your money, and you say, before I'm going to give you any capital, you go on GuardVest.com and you put up the portfolio that you'd recommend for me. We're not recommending any advisors. We're simply saying, if you want to look at somebody, invite them to GuardVest and test drive the car before you buy it. So we don't recommend anybody. We don't tell you what funds you should be in. It's simply between you and your computer to look at the advice that you're currently getting. And if it's not good, then invite somebody else to take a shot at your business, but don't give them any money until they prove it to you. So we don't have a list of advisors that we're saying you should go to these people. That's not at all what we do.
Is there any other company besides yours that is doing what you're doing?
There isn't. That's why I'm risking the whole thing on this, because I've been in the business. I've seen where all the bodies are buried. It's an ugly business, and you got to really make sure you find a good advisor. So every other firm out there that uses technology to quote unquote showcase or show you what you're getting from your portfolio is also trying to manage your money. And so therefore, how can you trust the data? How can you trust the data when somebody's trying to tell you that they think you should move your money to them?
Absolutely, because they're all going to say the same thing. Mine is the best. Mine is the best. Right. Everybody says the same thing.
And that's why we don't. That's why we don't manage money, because we're saying, I don't know who the best is. Neither do you. Let's find out together. Put them on GuardVest. Make them take a shot at your account. You would never buy a car without getting into it first. You would never buy a house without walking in and looking at it multiple times. Why in the world would you give your money to somebody that you just met without trying them out for free for a while?
And that's exactly why I have Steve Scanlon on this program every Friday, and I thank you so much for coming and sharing on Health, Wealth, and Happiness.
You bet. Have a great weekend.